Okay, Google, turn on my iron.
All right, turning iron on.
Hi everyone, I'm Leah from Darwin Textiles, and I'm coming at you today with another massive pile of linen fabric that I need to iron out. I have like 20 yards of extra wide fabric that I'm going to be ironing today, and I wanted to, while I iron, share a really fun story with you about a linen harvesting event that I went to recently. Really cool information, really cool stuff happening right outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, surrounding growing linen. So I'm gonna start ironing. I am gonna try and get myself a little bit organized with the fabric before I start explaining the story, because otherwise my multitasking monkey brain will absolutely see, it's already doing it. Forget words, so just one second. All right, I think I'm ready to get into it. So if you're not familiar with the work that I do, I run a small business called Darwin Textiles, where I design and create 100% linen clothing. And I also sell sewing patterns optimized for sewing with linen. And I also occasionally sell my plant-dyed linen fabric on my website as well. So I'm fully immersed in the world of linen fabric, and I get my linen fabric online from a couple different sources, but you'll notice that you pretty much can't find linen fabric that is actually grown in the United States. So you can often find cotton that's grown in the United States, but not linen. And there's a little bit of a story behind that. So basically, how I got to know more about the background of linen fabric actually started from posting in a Facebook group about my Shirt to Dirt project that I did last year. Someone recommended that I read the book Fibershed by Rebecca Burgess. This book is fantastic. I really recommend it to anyone interested in this topic. It's introducing the concept of a fiber shed. You might have heard of a watershed before, but a fiber shed is really a local network of farmers, manufacturers, clothing designers who all work together and work with the local raw materials and resources to create some sort of fiber products like our clothing. So as I'm reading this book, I'm turned on to this idea of a fiber shed. I think that's really cool. I wonder if there's anything like this in Philadelphia. I just moved in January, and I'm looking to sort of expand my network and get to know local makers and people who are interested in the same thing as me. And upon Googling, I come across the Pennsylvania Fibershed, which has a really cool thing that they're doing this year, where every month they have a kind of lunch and learn Zoom presentation where they invite someone who is an expert on a topic to give a talk on some aspect of the fiber shed in Pennsylvania. And I really recommend that you search your state or even country plus the word fiber shed and see what comes up. And then they also have a newsletter where they let you know about events coming up with some of their fiber shed partners. An event popped up on my email one day about a linen harvesting event, and I thought, oh, that sounds amazing, because obviously I'm obsessed with linen. I got my boyfriend convinced that it could be a fun thing to do on a Saturday morning. We had plans to basically just go kayaking afterwards. So we packed up our camera and our curiosities and headed to this linen harvesting event that was happening through the Pennsylvania Flax Project. I want to tell you a lot about what I learned at it. There was so many interesting things, even as someone who does know a little bit more about linen. There was a lot more to learn, clearly. Some of it might surprise you. Let me know in the comments if there's anything that you didn't know previously about linen. If you're a total newbie to it, you might have heard the term like your linen closet, and you might not even know that linen is its own fabric. Cotton is not linen. So linen is a special type of fabric, very specific, and it's grown from the flax plant. And the flax plant can be grown in just regular farm crops, farm cropping style. And it has these really pretty light blue flowers, and it, depending on the seed variety you get, you could be growing something that's been more engineered for creating good fibers like linen, or engineered for creating seeds. You've probably heard of flax seeds before. I've used it in a couple recipes. And as far as climate goes, you could actually grow the flax plant in several places in the United States, including Pennsylvania. So something I kind of knew ahead of time but didn't really know the extent of it was that flax is pretty much not grown in the United States. There are a handful of people who might just like grow it by hand for fun as hobbies. And I think there might be a place in Nova Scotia and California that are kind of trying to get some industry around it started. But the interesting thing is that it used to exist here around the same time that cotton plantations existed in the United States. And basically for several socioeconomic reasons, cotton won out and linen production pretty much halted in the US. And this all happened before the Industrial Revolution, and like all of the technology that went around cotton, like the cotton gin, that technology didn't really evolve and transform and grow in the United States. It did in other countries, like in lots of countries in Europe and some in Asia. They do have that farming technology that's required for the really specialized harvest of the flax plant. But in the United States, no, we just are importing all of our linen fabric. And so that's really interesting because we could be growing flax. We do actually have the climate and the soils, technically, especially in Pennsylvania. So when we got to the event, it's at this like really serene, beautiful farmland, very rural, probably 10 of us there. And we took this little like hay wagon attached to a trailer back to the site where the linen was growing. And to me, it looked like they had maybe like an acre growing. We got to meet all of the small team of the PA Flax Project. And it's run by a woman named Heidi, who was a really awesome host and educator on the whole topic. Her team consists of, she has a farmer, she has a someone who's really like doing the research and development on the flax plant itself and the seeds to grow and the equipment, an educator, an outreach person, a social media manager, a business person. So this little small team was all there, and each had really cool things to tell us about the process. So linen, the way that you both like plant it and harvest it is a little bit different than cotton or hemp. And so you need different machinery and pretty specific machinery. So even when you're planting it, you need a certain spacing of the seeds. They explained that depending on what type of flax you're growing, you want the plants to be growing closer together so that it can beat out any weeds. You need 3 key machines just for the harvest of the linen plant. The first one is the puller, and it's this harvesting equipment that basically pulls up all of the linen and lays it down in parallel rows with each other. And as it's laying on the ground, on the soil, it goes through a process called retting, where the dew and the microbes actually break down the pectins in the plant. The retting process helps to dissolve and separate a lot of the outer stem material that is surrounding the inner fiber bundles. The long inner fiber bundles are what's going to eventually be used to make linen with. Now, to touch back on the weeds and why those are important, how much weed content there is no real way for these machines to differentiate between the flax and the weeds. And they explain that the fiber mill really doesn't want any more than 10% weed contamination. And so it's really important to keep that weed growth low. About 1 week into the retting time, they use a machine called a turner, which goes and flips everything over from one side to the other so that it can really get like an even ret. And then eventually, once it's fully evenly retted, I think it could be anywhere from 2 to 6 weeks depending on the climate and the environmental conditions, a baler will come and round it all up. So that's just harvesting it. Then, of course, it goes on to have to do a lot more processing before it becomes this actual like woven together fabric. They didn't talk about that too much in this presentation, but I found a website online that has really beautiful pictures of this whole process. They show that the next steps in the process are scutching and then hackling and spinning and weaving, and I just couldn't believe how much linen looked like hair. It like before it gets woven up. It blows my mind. It looks like this beautiful blonde hair. So the flax plant could be used for so much stuff. You could have the different seed varieties, but then even within the fiber flax variety, you can differentiate between what they call the long staple and short staple. So the long staple, I think, just means like the long fibers. Those have to be 12 inches or longer, and that's what is used in linen fabric production. Linen is actually named for its long lines of fibers, and anything shorter than that, the short staple fibers, also known as tow fibers, are byproducts that can actually also be spun into yarn, but it's a little bit less fine and strong. So while all linen comes from the flax plant, not all fibers and fabrics that come from the flax plant are true linen. So the PA Flax Project group is really trying to help build an infrastructure and network. So it's not as simple as just one group of people growing the flax plant, because there's so many steps in the process. You need sort of a network and industry around it, unless you're really going to go from start to finish all yourself within your one group or business or co-op, whatever. And so she was saying that as far as the growth of the PA Flax Project, they have sort of a 2-year, 3-year, 5-year, 10-year plan. And this year, really, they just are working on planting the seed. They were awaiting the giant machinery. They actually had to order it overseas because, like I said, this linen harvesting does not happen in the United States. And so they had ordered this giant, super expensive machinery from overseas, and it was coming over on a boat, and I just saw on Instagram the other day that it had arrived, and I'm so excited for them to be able to try that out. That must have been a really fun, overwhelming day to get that big of a machine come in the mail to you. And but basically they're working on getting that machinery this year, testing out the seeds. They said that the seeds are pretty expensive at this point in time. And seeds are also like patent protected. Farmers are basically tied into just buying their seeds, and they can't reuse seeds year after year. So this year they were really experimenting to see how it was to plant it in a bigger quantity. They're going to test out their new machinery. They're really working on education of people about the linen process. But because a bigger industry isn't yet formed in the United States, their 3 to 4 year plan is to start harvesting their linen more and more every year and ship it overseas. She explained it as kind of like, it feels like you're just shipping hair overseas, but you're shipping it overseas to someone who can actually process it and turn it into linen. And, you know, while it'd be really cool to be able to make it here fully, sometimes you just have to go where the experts are. So they're going to be working on the harvesting first, shipping it off. And my main question for Heidi at the end of the presentation was, when can I buy the linen fabric? Like, I have all these ideas flowing through my head of how cool it would be to do a Fibershed based mini collection. It'd be really cool to do like a, you know, a mini limited run collection of PA grown linen, processed linen, and, you know, forage some natural dyes for it or grow some in a little garden plot. But she said, oh, that's a little bit far off, but it is coming, and that is the goal in the future. She said that's probably within the 5 to 10 year plan that they'll be able to actually sell the finished product of their linen. She said in their 3 to 4 year plan, they're hoping to get yarns sent back, processed and sent back to them, and it won't be till the 5 to 10 year mark, she expects, that we'll see actual linen fabric from it. But I'm so excited for that day to come. I'll be waiting, even if I don't even live in Pennsylvania at that point. If I move for some reason, I will still be staying in touch on this. I recommend you follow it as well, and if you're interested, I highly recommend. I haven't tried it myself, but I really want to next year. The PA Flax Project does a similar project to my Shirt to Dirt concept, whereas my Shirt to Dirt project was looking at linen when it's turning back into the earth. They're doing a community project that looks at linen at its early stages of being produced, and it's called the Square Yard Project. And if you get on their website, you can find more information about it. I think it's like $50 for the year to participate, and they send you enough seeds to plant roughly a square yard of flax, and then they'll provide all of the educational materials on how to actually process it yourself. You can do all of this by hand, technically, and it's just less efficient, right? You couldn't do it on the large scale, but they'll show you how to do it all by hand, and you could actually learn how to turn the flax plant into linen fibers to create things with. So I highly recommend you check that out. So at the end of the event, it was really cool. They showed us how to pull the flax and hold it upside down so that it doesn't kind of bend in half and flop. And they let us all pick tons of bundles of the flax. And can you see right here? Yay! I got my own little flax bundle to put up in my studio, which of course I was so jazzed about. This is like the most on-brand thing I could imagine as far as a souvenir from the event. And it's kind of drying out. It's still got green to it. I'm really curious to see if it will turn brown over time or how long this greenish yellowish will stay. It even still has some of the light blue flowers on it. So anyway, I hope this has been an interesting listen. It was so interesting to find all of this information out at the event. What I really encourage you to do, if this was interesting to you, is to first check out the PA Flax Project's website, check out the Square Yard Project, and then I also encourage you to look up a Fibershed near you. See what kind of events they have going on. That has been a really interesting place for me to get new information like this and learn and grow in my textile practice. And then from there, go ahead and check out my work over at charliedarwintextiles.com, where I sell linen clothing, all made to measure, and I also sell the sewing patterns to all of my designs, so you can make your own linen clothing. And I also have some plant-dyed linen available on my website as well. Now, all of my linen is coming from, it's like sold in the United States. It's coming from California, but it is grown in Europe, and my dyes, I have locally sourced them before, but I am currently getting my dyes from all over the world, grown in all different places, and I have a page on my website that tells you more about exactly where all of my dye colors are grown. Thanks so much for spending this time with me. I hope I didn't talk your ear off too much. I still have a lot of linen to iron through. All right, I really loved telling this story. Hope you enjoyed it as well, and I will see ya in the next video. Bye-bye.